AutoFac is really friendly with the Caso libraries, and of course the Caso dynamic proxy class is really useful in terms of building up your types and doing all sorts of magical things. So let's suppose that we want to do a bit of aspect-oriented programming. Let's suppose that we want to attach a logging functionality to any method that's called in a particular type. We can achieve this using the Caso dynamic proxy, and let me actually show you the set of Nugget packages I have. So if I just close this out, you'll see that, well, I have tons in here from all the examples that we did, but the one of interest is this one, AutoFac Extra's dynamic proxy, which of course takes a dependency on the Caso core once again. So this is what we're going to be using. Now, what I want to do is I want to have a way of intercepting any invocation of any method within a particular type so that I can do some logging on it. So that's what we're going to do. Now for this, I'll make a class called callLogger, and I will implement an interface called IInterceptor. So this is the interface that you need for intercepting invocations. So somebody's calling something and you want to invoke additional functionality. In this case, I want to log some information to a particular text writer. So I'll add that here, text writer output. I'll put it in the constructor once again. And here, what I want to do is I want to be able to intercept a method call. So first of all, I'll get the method name. Var method name equals invocation.method.name. And then what I want to do is I want to have some output for the fact that we're calling a particular method with a particular set of arguments as well. So here I'll say output.writeLine, and here I'll say calling method 0 with args 1. I'll do it the old-fashioned way because then it's more clearer in terms of readability. So the method name we already have, but as for the arguments, we want to string them with commas and whatnot. So I'll do string.join. So I'll join with commas a set of arguments that we're going to get. So how are we going to get them? Well, we also get them as part of that IInvocation argument. So here we can say invocation.arguments.select, and for each argument we're going to get either the argument, or if it's null, we're going to have an empty string. So I'll do a question empty string and then do a toString at the end, and then what we're going to do is just join everything together, and that will be the second argument that gets put in here. So all of the arguments comma separated, very convenient. And then we'll do the invocation itself. So we'll say invocation.proceed like so, and then we'll do the terminating output. So output.writeLine, and here I'm going to say done calling then name of the function, and the result was 1. So here I'm going to add the arguments. So the first is method name, that much is obvious, and the other is invocation.returnValue. And that's how you get what the function actually returned. So this is a call logger. It's an IInterceptor. You can see that the type is not from AutoFac, it's from Caso dynamic proxy. So that's where we get it from. And then let's actually see how we can use it. So I'm going to just describe some interface called IAudit, and it's going to have a single method called start, which will return an int. So start, and it will have a datetime argument specifying the report date, for example, when the audit was started. And then I'll have a class called audit, which is going to implement the IAudit interface, IAudit. And so we need to implement the start. And here I'll do some console output. So I'll say console.writeLine, for example, starting report on, and put in the report date. And then I will actually return the value 42 for no reason whatsoever. So now we can tie these two together. And the first point of tying these two together is to decorate this with an attribute, which is called intercept. So we're going to use the dynamic proxy interception, which is defined via the IInterceptor interface. We're going to use it on this class. So here we'll specify type of callLogger. So we're basically saying whenever somebody calls any method inside audit, can you please make sure that you intercept it and perform all of these operations instead. So one of the things you need to realize about dynamic proxy is it works by subclassing. In the case of concrete classes, it works by subclassing. In the case of interfaces, it's a bit easier. But if you want to work with a class, your methods need to be virtual. So that's one change that you need to add here. But apart from that, we're good to go. We're good to try out this new method. So var cb equals new container builder. I've done it 100 times by now. And then cb.register. So what we're going to do is we're going to register a new console logger. So I'll use the lambda syntax. So new call logger with console.out as the output. So that's going to write to the command line. I'll register this as an interceptor so that it's registered as an interceptor. I'll also register it as self, just so that we have it available. And then, of course, I register the audit component, which also has the iAudit interface. So I'll say cb.register type audit, like so. Then I'll say as iAudit. And here is the interesting part. Here is the extension part. I will put a dot here and say enable class interceptors. Now you can see that there are two options here. You either enable class interceptors or you enable interface interceptors, depending on how you want to resolve this whole thing. So maybe in our case we want to do it with class interceptors, in which case I'll just get rid of the interface part. So here we go. Here is our registration. The key part is obviously this. This is what's going to enable the custom dynamic proxy to inspect the type for this intercept attribute, to go after the call logger to make sure that we actually, instead of having an audit, we get an inheritor of audit that's been built dynamically, which when you invoke start on it, does all of this instead. So let's see how we can use all of this. And I'm going to once again using, well, let's do it the more fashionable way. So cb.build.using, like so. And in here, I'll say var audit equals container.resolve audit. So I'm going to get the audit or something which is audit derived. And then I will say audit.start, and I'll specify the current time, datetime.now. So let's see if this actually works. And amazingly enough, it does work. So instead of just calling the middle line, which is the content of the audit itself, we instead invoke a proxy which also performs the logging. So it logs by saying that we're calling a method start with the arguments, and here is a single argument being output as a string. And when we're done calling start, the result is 42. So those extra methods for logging specifically have also been invoked as well. And that is just some of the power of the Castle Dynamic Proxy when applied to artifact container registration.